Hi, this is Jordi from Agents at Work. Happy to have you here today. Like we are with Anita from Vellum. Hi, Anita.
Hi guys, so nice to be here.
How are you doing today?
Doing great. Honestly, the weather is perfect outside here in New York, so just, enjoying it as much as I
Yeah.
can.
As summer is getting closer, it's harder to get guests in the podcast because they actually say like, well, it's really good to be outside, but it's good
True.
that you made the time. So, can you tell us a bit about your company?
Yeah, so my name is Anita. I'm the head of growth here at Vellum, and I'm the most technical head of growth that you will ever meet. So my background is in data science. I loved just like working with LLMs. I worked with the first transformer. When I say the first transformer, I think of like when that paper was announced, attention is all you need. I basically built my own neural network in school at that time. And so like I was inspired by this technological change and innovation. And like even prior to that, I was learning about like computer science and all of that. My undergrad is in computer science, but then also like I felt this attraction towards like understanding how products are built, but then wanting to learn how I can market them better. And like that's the biggest struggle of technical people. How can we do marketing? How can we sell this product? And so I've been working on a lot of AI solutions in the past few years, and then I joined Vellum as head of growth, and now I'm working in something that we call the meta AI engineering. Because Vellum now helps companies build reliable AI solutions with the tooling that we provide them. And the tools can be workflow orchestration, prompt testing, evaluations, and then observability once you have something in production. But what Vellum is here to help you is take you from 0 to 1 quickly, but then also reliably, passing all the tests that you need to pass, because we know AI models are not reliable and you need to do some proper work before you put anything in production.
Yeah, I guess that quickly and reliable are like the two key words here, for people who are
Yeah.
building agents. They want the quick because they see everyone else jumping into the boat.
Mm-hmm.
We're late or what? And
Yeah.
then reliable is the other one because it's like, well, our engineer just did this in a weekend. It looked really, really promising, but then it's not ready for production. So right now, what kind of clients are arriving to you? Like they already have some stuff and they try to like getting to the next level, or it's literally like 0 to 1. We have seen this on TV. We want it.
Yeah, I would say, Jordi, there is a spectrum of companies that we work with. However, I can say that we're moving mostly up market right now because bigger companies, they care more about reliability. And we're working with companies who know that in order to put something in production that has an integrated AI component, they need to be able to work with non-technical teams who are the domain experts about what they're trying to build. They need to provide the right tools for those people to be part of the process, because imagine product managers looking at cursor code. Maybe they can. Like right now, every PM is becoming more technical, but like, do we want them there? Are there any other mechanisms where we can help non-technical people or teams to be part of this process in a way that it's synchronized and efficient and moves everyone, right? Like we have a direction, we now know where we're headed, and we can all synchronously move towards that. So like that's one part. The other part is like developers, they actually, they want to build in code. Like they don't also want to work on prompts. That's like a new thing for them that maybe domain experts might be better suited to work on that. And I can cover some examples further on as we continue to talk, and because this is a pattern that we see with a lot of companies. But to answer your question, we're moving up market. We're working with larger enterprises who care about reliability, who know that they need to incorporate this process of enabling everyone on their team with the right tools to be able to not only ship an AI solution, but then also iteratively and continuously improve the product in production. So think about ChatGPT. Think about the first version that they released, and think about the version that we have right now. They're actively getting implicit or explicit feedback from us, like, I like this response or I don't like this response. And like, based on that, they're reinforcing how the model is, one, like responding to you, and two, how they improve the chatbot so that it can be more useful to you.
Yeah, I'm always surprised when I see this like shift of technology, like like something that it's
Mm-hmm.
new and it starts getting
Yeah.
adapted. Usually it's startups, the first one that jump into the boat. But now with this AI, it seems to be like enterprise. They are like really, really edgy, saying like we want this. We had here
Yeah.
someone from IBM and it was saying like, yeah, it's like big, big corporations. So like the Mercedes of the world that they're saying like we want this in our tech stack. So this
True.
matches also what you are seeing in the market.
Yes, it matches a lot. I would say they're still slower in how they're adopting this and how they're, spreading it throughout the organization, which is to be expected. Like last year, this time, we were still not sure of like how this model's performance was. And like we needed a lot of these companies to test these models and like think of new ways like RAG, like memory components, evaluations, and like how do we actually build trust surrounding the model. So in the last year, we've learned that orchestration and how you create your logic actually has a lot to do with how accurate your feature is going to be in production. So now these days, companies are saying, well, great, the models, they have some obvious flaws, right? Like they're just predicting the next token, they're overfitting to their data, they're still not autonomous, they still cannot think on their own, no matter how we want them to, right? But like, what can we do to surround them with the right mechanisms, with the right guardrails to direct how they behave? Orchestration for you. And like that's how we work with developer teams and PM teams to be able to create the right structures so that whatever they're building with AI will perform in production. And in the last 2 years, we've done so many things as methods, best practices. Now we know what are the common pitfalls and all of that so that enterprises can now, take that, learn from that, and like build solutions that they actually can trust.
Yeah, it's really good if you have someone who already has the knowledge. And this is such a horizontal technology that it's good that some people are focusing on, I know how to use this technology. I can solve you your problem. Because
Yes.
literally, like many VCs don't like it at the beginning. They say, well, this sounds like service. And it's like, no, actually, like you're going to be able to build like great products. But right now, what makes you like the foot in the door with enterprise is saying like, I can solve your problem in a horizontal way. So right now, these pitfalls, I remember when I started, that you had to do a lot of scaffolding with the agents. Now you still have, but before you did the scaffolding and didn't work, now you can remove some of the scaffolding and start working. So how
Yeah.
it is to work with technology that changes so fast?
I would say that, like even with the agents that we see in production today, you still have a lot of scaffolding. However, the autonomy of these models that we use in production has expanded a bit because like one, models are becoming better, and two, we have better developer tools, and like model providers are providing better developer tools for us. Like think about JSON schema, think about JSON mode, think about function calling and MCP. And how we like to think about is like, in the last year, companies started to release more control towards their AI model. So the first, I don't know, this was like 2023 when we were all excited about seeing an app that converts Figma into code or a written message into a Figma design. I remember seeing that at a gas station. I was like, what's happening? Like it was so exciting. And every day we were getting like all these different new tools. So at that point, what we were all doing is just like working with a prompt. Had a prompt, and that was it. We gave some directions, we incorporated it with our tools, but the control was only at the prompt level. And now afterwards, we started to expand. Like we started to give our models tools, function calling. So we released even more control. Now you have the ability to create these parameters for function calls that I'm going to call in the next stage, right? And then from there, we said, well, okay, should we give more control to these AI models to work throughout the control flow of whatever I'm building? And this means we got like the React agent where you have multiple components where one LLM with some specifications will think through the problem, it will plan the answer, and then the final one will do it. So now it's just like an expanding bubble of releasing control more and more. And outside of the workflow these days, all of the hype is around MCP. Now we want to give the key to our stack. Like, can models actually work with our stack? And then beyond that, it's, everything that you can imagine. Like, obviously, in a couple of years, Jordi, I don't know about you, but I don't want to work. I want these agents to do the work for me. And I want to enjoy in Spain, the beautiful sun in Spain. Like, that's how the field is expanding, and we're seeing this expansion actively here at Vellum. However, I would say that the solutions that we have in production are at the most at the workflow level. Like we don't have customers who use MCP in production these days. When I say in production, what I mean is customer-facing products. For internal use cases, you can go wild. You can build whatever you want. But like bigger companies, and especially if what you're building is high risk, high reward type of solution, and I think the Anthropic team, they did a really great job at specifying this. If there's a high risk with the product that you're building, think healthcare. Think Headspace is one of our customers, right? Like they have high risk of, like they must do this right. There shouldn't be any mistakes. And there's like low risk with like cursors of the world, lovables of the world. Like if you mess up my code for this like tool that I'm building, I'm going to go back and I'm going to prompt you to do something else. I might be, annoyed that you didn't know how to do it because like now our threshold is super high, but like it's low risk. And like that's kind of the balance between it all. And like that's how you make a plan for what do you want to do before you publish your solution in production. And that's how we help you.
Yeah, like this pattern, like you can see it even with developers that they try AI, it doesn't do everything that they want, and it's like, oh, it doesn't work, and they just leave.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine like for normal people, if they just try something and it doesn't work, like they are
Yeah.
not going to come back after in a while. So like big companies need to make sure that the experience is there. Like people are used to reliable tools. There was a lot of QI and stuff like
Yes.
that to make sure that things work. We have alpha, beta, and finally the production
Yeah.
version. And
Yes.
now we are getting some technology that is totally new and creating new things. So for
Yes.
people, it's like, well, does this even work? So I can imagine that enterprise has like a higher bar of where
Yeah,
this is.
and it honestly, like, it all depends on the use case. Like with code generation, that's easily verifiable. Like you can run unit tests, you can see if it passes the score, right? Some other use cases, especially when there's a lot of like semantics or behaviors involved, like how do you measure that? What are the evaluations that you need to run to be able to build confidence that whatever you're going to put out there for your customers is one, actually going to be useful, and two, it's not going to say the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right now, you already said a couple of words, so maybe we can clarify them. What's the difference between workflows, agents, programs, CP? What's an agent in this scenario? When people say like, I want an agent, are they talking
Yeah.
about something specific, or it's like a toolbox of 100 things?
I wanted to avoid answering this question, but I think it's a burning question that everyone has at this point. How I think about it, Jordi, honestly, like the answer that I'm going to give you is this. If you're building a solution that requires you to code something deterministically, so think like basic programming, software engineering, but then also requires you to implement or integrate with an AI model, that's a basic workflow for you. AI workflow, right? You have AI and you have some deterministic code. This thing should do some specific thing in production. However, the more control you release to the model within this workflow, the more agentic this workflow becomes. So like when people ask me like what is an agent, I usually say like there is no clear definition of what it's an agent right now. But the more control you give to your workload, the more agentic it becomes. And you should not strive to get to an autonomous agent right now. You should start in a stepwise direction, like start to give tools, start to do something else, and then like expand to give more capabilities and autonomy to your workflow, but never start to do it all at once.
Yeah, technology is not there yet. We just like I want an agent that is able to do like my groceries, like let's go and do it. Like we're still like some kind of word rails there. But I really like your answer, and I think that it's like so far the winning one because it's the one that says like, well, it's about control. Like the more the agent can do, the more agentic it becomes. We are not there yet, but you can see like the progression.
You can see and it's the same with like autonomous cars. Like how do you get cars to be autonomous if you don't first solve for autonomous parking, right? Like it's a stepwise direction that you need to do. Like there are some things that you first need to figure out in order to get to the last point.
When you said about MCP, like developers are really like MCP because they have front end for it. That was Cursor. However, something that I am still wondering is like, what's going to be the consumer app that it's able to plug all these models? Have you already seen something like that, or it's going to be integrated into everything?
We're seeing some products that do this. I don't know whether it's well or not. I would say that we're still not seeing MCP being pushed in production because of the obvious pitfalls. Like you can't control it. How do you know that it's gonna, call the right thing? It's not still safe. Authentication is a problem. Like all of the stuff that any protocol, like this is the first version of the protocol that exists. Like, of course, they need to improve it and they need to make it work in production. And it's a process that needs to be done at some time. But I would say that in terms of making that more useful to people who are not developers and who want to use them, I think that it's still like a long way. And we have a bit more time to get to that point.
For your users, are they happy to use like any kind of closed source models, or they are running like some stuff locally, or that they have control? They don't want the data to leave.
It's both. I would say enterprises care more about security and data retention and all of that. So we do like on-prem and VPC with them. Mostly some of them, like we have a company that works with that has a company that is a healthcare insurance that is building a product in the health insurance space. They never use closed source models. They always use open source models. They fine tune them. They have control of the data. They care about all that stuff. So it's different. And I would say like different companies have different thresholds on this safety and security standards. And we try to adapt our product towards them. And so like right now we host all of the open source models through different inference providers. So think Grok, think Samba Nova, Cerebras. Like if you want to use a past inference and someone else to host the model for you, you can use these guys. If you want closed source, we integrate with everyone else. It's also able, within our product to upload your fine-tuned model. It's just like one click, you upload it, you wait for like 5 minutes and that's it.
And I know many people who always push for open weight models because they say like, well, you don't know, maybe one day OpenAI changes the model and it breaks your workflow. That's something that I heard a lot, but I don't know anyone who told me actually like, I had a workflow, they made a push and it actually broke it. Do you have any client or did you have this experience?
I think like the problem is not about OpenAI pushing something that is going to be so different for customers. I think that our customers today rely more on the orchestration and the logic that they built to control or to offset those changes. I haven't seen anything that was that different that a model provider launched that impacted someone in that way. Because you have all the safety mechanism, because you care about the orchestration, you care about evaluation. And like, even if something like that happens, for example, a company that we work closely with, the name is Drata, which in the compliance space, they have proactive monitoring. So if something happens to a model or to the workflow, so they do like automated tests, they will know even before their customer notices it.
Yeah, that's how you do enterprise things. Like, know before the customer, and then you go and
you
fix
must.
it.
And there's another thing, like Redfin built their chatbot with us. And obviously they're in a very highly regulated industry. And they care about like not offending a specific protected characteristic in a demographic sense, right? Like they cannot suggest a certain neighborhood based on some demographic characteristic. And so imagine prompting a model to align with that and to not make a mistake in production. That's tough, right? And like within a chatbot, you also need to integrate with a lot of tools. Like I'm looking for a house in Williamsburg in New York. There are no houses. You need to go with an apartment. Here are some options or connect you with an agent. Like how do you control that? Like that's the burning question. And Redfin spent, I think, around 6 months using Vellum to get to a point where they knew that their chatbot is going to work perfectly. And they still launched it in beta because they knew that you're going to see some real world examples, right? From customers actually using this that they didn't think of. They wanted to then further improve it. And now they're thinking about like integrating images and videos and tours within the chatbot. And now they're continuing to experiment on all those new hypotheses using Vellum.
Yeah, I guess that one of the main thing here is for people to understand that it's a full system. So it's not just an LLM and you say like, well, it's not going to say anything wrong. It's like there's a full system that the LLM can fail because it will fail from time to time. But then there's always recovery methods and, like enough monitoring to make sure that that never scales up to the user. So,
exactly.
The right firewalls. Yeah, that's good that people are start releasing and, like building this kind of solutions. Right now, when someone comes to you with a problem, do you already have some kind of scope that you say like, well, I do these 3 questions and I know where they are at and how we can bring it to the next level? Or it's still like pretty ad hoc?
I mean, I would say it's ad hoc still in many ways, but then in some ways we're seeing a pattern that emerges. And there are a couple of things. One is that we're seeing that product managers are becoming more technical and they're the ones who are testing hypotheses on what the company wants and needs to build. And companies who don't want to create engineering as the biggest bottleneck, they go first to the product managers to develop like a user scope of things that an AI and where the AI should be incorporated. And like the first pattern is that these PMs, they need to be able to test their hypothesis early. So they come to Vellum, they use the workflow builder, they connect all the sources, they add all the, connected nodes, models, their tools, whatever they want to build. And like, they're very experienced, like they're becoming very technical. And I think like their role is going to change in the future a lot. So companies, they want to enable all of the teams who need to be involved in the AI development process to have the right tools to be part of that process. Then also with the example with Redfin, their legal teams, they were using our evaluation platform to write down test cases so that they can build this confidence that whatever they put there in production, it will actually be aligned with the laws within the real estate industry. So like you need to enable everyone on the team. Then second, it's different whether you are building an internal system or external system, obviously. Like you would scope different things. If you're building something for your team that will be used internally, you have a lower threshold for obvious reasons, right? If you're building something for production, you will always scope it for a longer period of time, etc. And then finally, I would say there's some companies who start with like 0 to 1, let's test if this works. And there are some companies who already have the scope and the knowledge that in order to get to a good, secure place, they need to do it all. They need to test, they need to evaluate, they need to put it into production, they need to work with everyone, they need to integrate an orchestration layer even before they put anything in production to be able to capture and improve the system. But last year, I think it was, we ran this survey with like 1,500 developers. 25% of them only had something in production. So it's a tough job to be done. It's what I'm trying to get to. And if a company realizes that they must do evaluations, that they must have observability, it will make the path more simple and easier to navigate for everyone on the team.
Yeah, and speed is always an asset for a company. Like if you are able to execute fast, and then these things actually get you to move faster. So for first time, I think that even developers, like many of them, it's like, well, I don't want like TDD and things like that. Like it just slows me down. Let me just think about the logic and I will go. But something that I noticed with AI is that even like developers, because they see that they are not the one doing it, it's a machine. It's like, no, I need word rates there. I need like a CI that actually checks the stuff. So I think that these things that with developers were like just good practices, now in LLM land, it's going to become like mandatory. Whoever doesn't interact with this, doesn't matter how good they are not going to be able to deliver and then get filtered out.
Yeah, and the thing is, these days, you can easily offset that task to someone who is not a developer, but who cares about the outcome. And these are your product managers right now. And I'm not saying that you should give more work to your product managers, but if you're building an AI solution, the product manager should own this process. Like that's the specification that everyone should be working on. And that's the goal, like whatever goal they set up to be, like everyone needs to be aligned on that.
And they are like enterprises and small companies also, like they are really like focusing on reliability now. What about brain sensitivity? Like it's something that people who are trying to build these solutions like hit some walls of, wow, this really works well. And then they check and say, well, cannot put this in production, or this is not happening already.
I mean, it's still happening. Like it just like reinforces the same thing that I was saying just before, because these AI models are non-deterministic. There is high variance in the output given the same input. So like think of basic software engineering concepts. You just code something. If there are some bugs, you solve for them. You have unit tests and you check whether the output matches what you're trying to solve for. That's it. It's very directional. It's very linear. Even with like TDD, with software engineering, it's still going to be like much faster than compared to TDD with AI development. With AI development, you're trying to understand the behavior of the models. And think about agents. Like an agent can have their own neural network of things that they can do. It's like a branching tree. And like, how can you understand their behavior of why at a certain step they decided to go along that path versus why they didn't choose the other, 2 to the end paths that we have? Like, it's still a burning question that everyone wants to answer, but here at Vellum, we believe about observability and early testing. And I would argue that most solutions that we see in production today, they're just like workflows with AI that's orchestrated in a way that it's very powerful with some best practices that only teams who test and evaluate and validate early would know. And like, just focus on your work. Try to learn as much as you can. Try to look for some best practices from companies like Klarna or companies like, I don't know, there was a very interesting article that I just read recently. It was like 12 principles about agents or something like that. Like try to steal from others, but then also focus and see what's working for you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was asking because with price sensitivity, I am sure that now people want reliability. So they say like, for example, okay, I can afford the biggest GPT for this use case. Yes. But then you want to make sure, and it's something that you can bring a lot of value to your customers by saying like, listen, this is moving constantly. I don't know, like Gemma 3 from Google. just
Yeah.
released 27 billion parameters. And now a 27 billion model can do things that before you maybe needed like 70 or plus,
Yes.
like more than 100 billion parameters. And then the cost, it's also different.
Yes.
So I guess that they get really, really happy if you just go and tell them like, listen, your use case right now, your bill is like this. This is your reliability. Check. We just started like doing some A/B testing. We are using another model, and or we are just like a twin protocol, like we are running the same queries, and we see that the smaller model is able to resolve them. So if you want to switch, your bill is going to change from this big to this small, plus the reliability is going to stick into this level.
I mean,
Do you
like,
see people doing this stuff, or they already say like, no, it's good. Like I already calculated for 1 year or 2 years.
no, they're testing a lot of things, and you are ignorant if you're not. Because as with everything, there are a lot of trade-offs with AI development as well. So let's say that you're building a chatbot. For that chatbot, the first prompt, if you want to rely on AI to do that, it could be to classify what the user is asking. So like in the case of Redfin, let's say that someone is asking for a room to rent. You should be able to classify that with a prompt to say, well, this person is looking for this specific request. Is it high risk? Is it low risk? If it's high risk, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to escalate to a human. If I know, and if it's like a medium risk type of thing where like a cheaper model with some average performance can solve, then I'm going to direct it towards this path. But if it's like something else that might require some reasoning, some thinking through the problem, then I'm going to use a much smarter but slower model. And if you go down that third path, which I would argue that usually like AI applications, they follow all these three paths because it's obvious, like, you know, there are thresholds to be met, and then you obviously do a lot of trade-offs. But like if you go down that route of, okay, this is a reasoning problem, I need to think about it, then on the UI, there's so many ways on how you can offset that waiting time. And like designers know this best, but like I'm seeing that a lot of design focus is these days on like, how do we make this feel fast for the customer, right? And that's the same when we talk about like output streaming, right? Like when you talk with ChatGPT, they output the words as they show up. Imagine if they were waiting for the whole thing to be generated to show you in the chatbot. So it's the same with this. You just like try to minimize the waiting time artificially for the user while also using a more powerful model that could be slower, just fine. What matters here is like your user getting the right question at the right time and like being satisfied from that whole interaction.
The design thing, it's like a really nice insight, because I think that many developers miss these things because they just go to a hackathon and, vibe code something and say,
Yeah.
But then when you try to put this in production, you see like you need a lot of other skills. Like, like many people say, oh no, this is killing designers, this is killing PMs, this is killing developers, this is killing, and you're like, no. Like we're going to have more work than ever until agent. But we can like recycle our skills. And for example, I am sure that for designing, that's actually one of the best things that they can do now. It's like how we can do the experience of AI. Right now, I see a lot of people doing chat. Do you see anything else different? Like, are they trying to build other kind of experiences?
I think chat is still a frequent use case. Assistants, copilots, more integrated AI capabilities within existing products, right? Like we have Stripe. How can Stripe make its services better using natural language? So I would say like right now, the innovation in the space is split between companies who are building agents as AI first companies who are trying to find a new way on how to solve an older problem. And then there are the separate group of people and companies are all these bigger companies who already have a say in the industry and like they have their mark. They're trying to integrate AI to be able to provide better services to their customers. So, but they're working on like isolated components, and the first ones they're building from scratch.
So do you see any like percentage of people who are doing like API first stuff? Or say, no, the product is an API that it's kind of an agent, or people are doing like vertical stuff and it's like, well, I have this agent, but for people to consume it, I actually need to build a chat for it.
Interesting. I don't think that I have a good answer for that question. I would say that everything is moving so fast, and the design of your application and what you're trying to solve depends on your domain expertise and who do you want to sell it to and what's the experience that you want to provide. So yeah, I don't know what's the actual split between those two, but we're seeing a lot of both.
And about growth, I'm sure that you have a lot of things on your plate right now already because you're growing really, really fast. And clients are coming left and right saying like, well, we have more problems that you can solve for us. Are they looking for agents that are like basically like language or multimodality? started kicking in. Like our enterprises coming and saying like, we have a lot of video, we have a lot of sound.
That's a good question. We're actually not seeing that many video-based solutions, but in regards to multimodality, we're seeing a lot of voice agents being created, especially in the healthcare industry. So think assisting patients to book like a doctor's visit or to ask for some information. We're seeing a lot of innovation happen there.
Yeah, for something that I want to ask for healthcare. So if you can tell any of your clients, that's what they want to happen. It's like I see LLMs, they output a lot of text.
Yes.
And my focus, it's already limited. Like what I need is more hours in the day. So if you put more information, like in the first wave of products, everyone was saying like, well, I take an LLM, I take something that is one sentence and I make like an article of it. So now you have an article. Say, yeah, I don't have time for an article. Can you please summarize this in one sentence again? So for example, for doctors, I think that one of the main problems is like how the information gets passed from the user to the doctor. Like you don't know what's relevant or not, so you just sit there and they ask you stuff. And then you start saying, and it's like not relevant. Like, okay, let me just say you everything, and then you can decide what is relevant or not. So LLMs can take that part of the task.
Yeah, that's true. And like one customer of ours, what they do really well is they have this application that doctors use to record patient sessions. And then their application basically takes whatever it was said, they transcribe it, then they use some orchestration to extract the right information that they need. Usually doctors need what they call SOAP notes, like observability. I don't know, I'm not going to go into details, but like they form this node, and from that node, they try to pass the data into their system of record. So like a whole different workflow happens in the back of just like you saying something and then that thing starting to live in your CRM or like system of record, in this case for hospitals. And it's so easy because like doctors now, they have a lot of time to spend with the patient to actually understand what they're experiencing and be able to provide the right advice and all of that, instead of thinking that, hey, I need to write this down and I need to put it in my system. Like no one wants to do that. They didn't for sure finish medical school to do that.
Yeah, so I think that it's good for everyone. It's good for the patient, it's good for the doctor. It always kills me seeing people studying for 10 years for filling up like bureaucracy papers. It's like, no, like we're not supposed to be doing that. And it was like 40% of their time that they are getting that.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. True.
And people right now, when they come to you, usually it's for doing something that it's online. And by online, I mean like the LLM, it's part of the workflow that it's happening right now. Or people are already using like background processes that take LLMs and say like, well, for example, we have the doctor, no? Like we have this conversation recorded. One thing is adding an LLM that during the conversation brings the right facts, but actually there can be like some post-processing that we can
I think it's both. I think it's both. And again, like depends what their focus is, what their priority is. Obviously, like the biggest challenges that we're spotting are happening, live, as you said, online towards customers. Like we need to be able to make these solutions work perfectly. And we will never do. Like that's the thing with AI. Like you can strive to do it and you can have like some reasonable threshold, but you will never do because like you don't know what people can ask this chatbot, and you need to be constantly observant of how your customers are using this feature. So the work is never done, but for back-end processes, like that's still happening, and you can create some automated tasks, like run some questions or some automated generated questions. But like all of those things are happening. It just depends on like the industry, what do you want to achieve, what are you building, which space are you in. So it depends on many things. But one thing that I'm going to say is like everyone is trying to find like the best use case from these AI models for whatever they're doing.
Okay, so it's actually like you don't even need to go out there hunting customers. Like they are already like they are in the shower, and it's like I just saw this crazy thing that Sam Altman announced yesterday. How can we take advantage of this? So they already come with some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, they know. Like if you're building for production, you're facing the challenges that we're solving. If you're building flashy demos, you don't care. Like you just want to go to a hackathon and showcase your demo, and that's going to be awesome. And I'm doing that for some of my ideas. Like I have built an SEO agent. I use it internally. I go and showcase this thing, which is like a monster, if you ask me. It researches the internet. It captures the voice. It knows like who you're talking to. If there's some, like once it analyzes the top ranking articles for a keyword that you want to write about, it analyzes whether there's some missing components and how Google is thinking about that keyword, and then it suggests what you need to do in order to research some new content on the internet to incorporate it into the initial article, what you should bring as a domain expertise to make this article feel more stronger so that Google will actually want to rank it. I'm never for just using AI to generate articles as slop articles, as people have called them. You just need to make it domain specific. You need to add your insights. But the rest of the part, that whole research that goes within SEO, which is like a low risk for me, I'm going to do it with an agent. And I don't care. Like if I run it now, if it gives me a good answer, that's great. The next time if I run it, if it's not giving me a good answer, that's fine. I'm just going to like look at my prompt, change it. Like I have the control of that and I'm the final user. I don't care. But if I'm putting something for my customers to use as a chatbot, I'm going to care about it so much. And I'm not going to put anything that I'm not sure about.
Yeah, of course. Like, the user is not going to give you a second opportunity many times. So,
Exactly.
They are trying to solve a problem and maybe it's like time sensitive for them. So you cannot just tell them like, oh, but this is really new. Just tinker with it.
Yeah, just
We will
think
learn.
about it. Yeah, I mean, there's another thing, like with a startup, people could be more forgiving. And in the early days of like the chat GPTs of the world, like everyone was so forgiving because like even a machine giving an answer that it's half correct was amazing for us, right? But now we're entering a stage where people expect more and people are not easily satisfied. It's the same thing with how like people are not satisfied with basic things in regards to like software apps. Like we want instant gratification. We want, like, if you're using social media apps, if you like, but that's more like a user specific thing. But then like loading, like we don't want to wait. Our attention spans are collapsing. And it's just like with AI, the same thing is happening right now. Because now we're so used to just like talking to ChatGPT, expecting a perfect answer, expecting this thing to be like the smartest person that we're gonna talk to. And it's so hard to fit that narrative for some companies.
As a head of growth inside the company, like I guess that you get like a lot of clients from outside. You need to, like manage expectations from what's possible today. But then inside the company, like when usually you get a lot of clients, the company needs to grow. You had to add a lot of developers, or it was a SaaS like infrastructure. Here, how are you internally using AI to take advantage? Like, would you say like we are all sold, like all your engineers say this is the best thing ever, and then you can see the productivity going up year after year because they adapt?
Yeah. So I would say that we use AI a lot. I would say that we can use it more. The tools that our developers are using are just like Cursor. I vibe code every day using Lovable. Everyone on the go-to-market team creates all this internal go-to-market toolings with like Lovable, V0, some other tools on the market who are enabling you to do that. But then also I mentioned the SEO agent. Like I built that one with our tool, and I have a few other ones that just like enable me to move so much faster. And I rely on them to, make me a more performant employee, right? And then also, for example, I would say that, like we're bringing a lot more customers. What we do with them, like apart from the product that we provide, we also consult them and we help them build all these systems together. And so like we've started to create like a big knowledge base from how customers are using Vellum and how they're building with AI. And these days we're automating it more with AI. So right now we know like if you're just starting to build your solution, we know the things that you're going to care about. So we know the right resources that we should recommend to you. And like we use AI to create those and to recommend them at the right time.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And as a head of growth, you're in New York, one of the best cities in the world.
Yeah.
How important do you think that it's Silicon Valley versus the rest of the world?
I mean, it's an obvious question. Like, if you're there, you're gonna have like the biggest network within the AI industry, and we're going to this conference that's happening in June because of that. Like, we obviously want to penetrate that market as well. But I'm gonna say that there is like a specific feeling about New York and companies who are working with AI in New York. I would say that right now I would be here in New York than in SF. That's just like a personal preference based on like other factors as well. But in regards to how and what I want to do as a head of growth here at Vellum, I would rather win a new market than go into a saturated one. And so there's so many companies in New York who are currently innovating with AI at an increased rate. And it's one of our goals to, set up the community, enable everyone to build with AI and just like help them build it in a reliable way, in a fast way, as I mentioned before.
Yeah, and New York is a great city for innovation. Like if you go there, you can
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah, we can feel
Actually,
it.
the conference that you are going to go, I guess that it's the AI engineering
Yes.
festival, and they only did it in two places, San Francisco, but in
And New
February it
York.
was in New York,
Yes.
because clearly there's a lot of talent and like companies that are building that space
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a good choice too. Thank you very much. I always like to finish with a couple of questions. One is like in the next 6 to 9 months, what would you like to see that didn't happen yet?
What do I like to see? People usually ask me, what will we see? What are my predictions? But what do I want to see? I would like to see an agent that does a high risk job that was never previously able to be built. And so when I say high risk, what I think is, can we have an agent that, truly works autonomously to solve a big problem? And when I say solve a big problem, I don't think that it should be creative. It shouldn't think of new ideas to solve a problem, but can it do this specific thing that has a high risk of being correct autonomously? And it can be like a healthcare thing, right? Like, can it suggest, what pill I should take in the morning for this diagnosis without a human interfering with that? I think like I know the answer. I just like I want to see that, but and that's why when I told you like usually people ask me like what do I predict? I think that we're gonna hit a local maxima soon-ish because we can scale these models with the same methods that we were using before. Even so, like I'm putting down my chips that orchestration will start to matter even more because like we need to start to think like how can we scale these models in a novel ways, and like I think DeepSeek was an introduction to that. Like they started to think about how can we scale these new models in a new way because models are hitting their limits. They're trained based on like data that it's a limiting factor in compute, which is also a limiting factor, and we just need to think about new ways.
I really like this approach of seeing like the current limits, but then I know many pessimist people that's like, okay, so this is it.
Yeah.
And they are the same ones that in the 50s they would have like vacuum tubes cannot scale computers, like for having a computer this big, I would have to need like so much land.
Exactly.
It's okay. Like we know that there are some limitations, but then we can take over with other techniques. And in this case, orchestration seems to be what is going to enable AI agents. Even if the models like stop right now improving, they won't. But even if that right now this was the latest limit, we will be able to build so much on top of that.
Yes. Yep.
And now if we go to the other spectrum, what do you see happening today that you would love to people stop doing in the next like 6 to 9 months?
To stop doing? Man, that's a hard question. That's a hard question. So what do I see people doing a lot of today that I don't want them to do?
Yeah, usually people say things like, I don't know, like they are not testing stuff. So, it's 2025.
I mean, I work with companies who are testing stuff. So like my bubble
see.
is different, I would say. I would say what I don't like for people to be doing as much is rely on hype. Because like with agents, and this is obviously a podcast about agents, and like I'm excited about the future of agents. As I said, like I don't want to work. I just want to sunbathe in like a beautiful beach in Spain. Let the agents do the work. Agents at work, right? But like right now, we're not even nearly there. And I really don't like when I see that a company is trying to profit off of the hype and give bad advice to companies that they need to do it today and right now and like the way that they need to think. It's always great to be optimistic and, I live for the innovation. I'm also a space nerd. I've been to like 20 rocket launches. Like I love innovation and space in general, but like I don't really like it when people are profiting off of hype. So I would love people to stop doing that.
Anita, I think that after this conversation, everyone knows that you are like the most technical head of growth in the world. Like when I thought that, oh yeah, she's really technical, it's like I am actually a space nerd. So that's for another podcast. And I would like to learn more about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope like it's gonna be hard, but if in 6 to 9 months people are hyping less,
We'll see. We'll see. Like, we don't want to see an agent not doing its job well in production for, companies to learn that, like they need to be careful about these things. But yeah, really enjoyed the conversation, Jordi. Really love that. Thanks for the invite again.
excellent. For people who want to learn more, where can they find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. My handles are my name and last name. So it's at Anita Kirkovska. Every social platform, I use the same handle. You can find me there. You can read more. I usually write a lot of resources on like best practices and like common pitfalls and how we are solving for them on our blog at Vellum.ai. So if you go on that page, you're gonna go under resources and you're gonna find all of the insights that I've read about. I also manage the #1 ranking LLM leaderboard in the world. So just type llmleaderboard.com and you're gonna see my leaderboard there. Like we have all of these models compared, so you can make a better decision, like which model you want to use for which task, and like how models are performing when they're compared.
Excellent. So I will make sure to add that to the notes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Anita. Have a good one.
Thank you, Jordi. Have a good
See you
one.
soon.
Bye.